Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. I trust that you are great this glorious Monday morning. It is, well, Monday afternoon now. It depends on when you see it. Again, I am super happy that you guys are here. Um, it was a good weekend. You guys know that I appreciate your prayers. I'm still dealing with my foot. It's getting better. It's getting a little better every day. I'm taking my medicine. I'm wearing my boot. Getting better every day. Feeling stronger every day. I'm feeling all right now. Yeah, will not get a copyright strike for that. Uh, but life is good. Thank you so much. Um, this so-called, and I say so-called, um, debt ceiling deal, um, we need to dig into further. And we're going to spend the next couple of days sort of breaking it apart a little bit because there is some misunderstanding out there. I don't want to use the MI word or the DI word, um, but I really want to talk about what it actually does or what it actually doesn't do. Uh, my thought is that what's happened is that this whole deal thing just circumvents legislation, and it circumvents legislation by legislators, which means we have a much bigger problem, friends, much bigger problem than this crappy deal here. All right. There are some non-defense spending caps. Let's go ahead and talk about that. The deal meets a what was supposed to be a crucial demand from Republicans to cap spending on non-defense items. Under the provisions of the deal, non-defense spending will remain at roughly the same level as the year prior, which doesn't mean it was kept necessarily, because capping at about $637 billion. This is what DC calls cuts. This will see an approximately a 1% increase in fiscal year 2025. That's what DC calls a cut. This is what Kevin McCarthy is crowing about. However, this is far from Republicans' original aspirations. The Limit, Save, Grow Act would have slashed spending by roughly $130 billion, as well as limited non-defense spending over the next decade. In contrast, this package keeps spending levels constant and does little to head off future changes to non-defense expenditures. So for Democrats, for the spenders, life is about the same. Things are about the same. Nothing really going to change. The status quo has been maintained. Of course, and the bill will also see an increase in defense spending as well. The Pentagon is set to get $886 billion in fiscal year 2024, and approximately a 3.5% increase. And that's in line with the president's original budget request. So the president got it pretty much exactly what he wanted. And Kevin McCarthy got to look like a fool. And the rest of you that supported Kevin McCarthy got to look like a fool. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Got to look like a fool. Because you just wanted it to go, you just wanted it to end because it's like a circus. Just like it's supposed to be. Imagine if you had Byron Donalds, what you could have had. Likewise, the package meets Biden's request for veterans medical care and approximately $121 billion to that end. McCarthy praised the tentative deal for provisions for cutting federal expenditures. Have I talked about any real cutting yet? Think about this, he says. We're finally able to cut spending. We're the first Congress to vote for spending cuts year over year. So you cut that back, you fully fund veterans, you fully fund defense, but you take the non-defense spending all the way back to lower than 2022 levels. No, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Let me tell you some bad news that you already know. This was going to be how it was anyway. This was going to be how it was anyway, because the current crop of Republicans that are in charge that would put to use President Trump's word, a milk toast, middle of the road, Mitt Romney type Paul Ryan, more Paul Ryan type in the speaker's chair. This is what you were going to get. He's from California, by the way. This is what you were going to get. If you were looking for conflict, if you're looking for, you were not going to find it in Kevin McCarthy. It's not in him. And it's not in this particular brand of leadership. It's just not there. Now, here's the thing that everybody's concentrating on that is basically nothing. This is a big nothing. There are now stricter work requirements for government aid. Ooh, see, and that's supposed to get conservatives, the whole pull yourself up by your bootstrap conservatives, all excited and foaming at the mouth. This package will also bolster work requirements to receive some types of government assistance. Specifically, the deal tightens requirements to receive benefits from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly referred to as SNAP, or food stamps, right? And the temporary assistance for needy families. All the last one is welfare. It used to be, I forget what the acronym was. Yeah, those two programs, they've changed the names and they've massaged it all. One used to be just a cash payment of this is how much you get, and you could because you got 9 kids and you get this much money because you had 9 kids, and food stamps you get this much money because you had 9 kids. If I can relate a story to you, um, picture if you will, it was a young family uh, here in Tampa, Florida. Both people just starting their career. I mean, their careers, whatever their career was going to be, just starting out, just out of school, struggling, absolutely friggin' struggling. Both had jobs, one with a financial institution, and the other with in the school system, but at my job at the lowest level possible. We were blessed because both of them at least had health care, and that was a blessing. And but neither of us made much money. And my wife, my young wife of just less than a year, came home and she was so upset one afternoon because she had gone out to buy groceries. Now this was the time in our lives where sometimes we would get to the and I don't know if a lot of you I don't know if you've seen this. You get to the cashier and they start rigging stuff up, and you're like, oh yeah, put that back. Yeah, put that back. Yeah, put that back. Because the total is way more than the budget. And that afternoon, my wife was at the grocery store and was behind this family, and they had meat, they had steaks, they had ribs, they were preparing for a cookout, they were preparing for a Fourth of July blowout to beat the band. And when came time to pay, the lady reached into her purse and grabbed her food stamps, and it started rolling off food stamps like it was a big hunk of food stamps. They didn't come in a hunk yet. They came in little booklets, right? Just start pulling them off. Now, what we knew and we still know is that that there wasn't really a work requirement back then. Um, but this lady's had enough to get all this. And my wife and I were working. I was working two jobs at the time. I was working in the school system, and then I was working at Tampa Highline. Bye bye from Highline. Um, After that, I would work a regular school day, and then I would get in my little car and I would get on the Crosstown Expressway and I would go to Tampa Highline, and I would work all the evening shows and get home at about midnight or so on Fridays. Later because it went on longer. And I did that 6 days a week. And still, it was for us. Got to put that back. Got to put that back. Can we not get this? How much is it now? My wife was sad, embarrassed, and super angry. So when it came time to get her to switch parties, it was pretty easy. When it came time for when I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to register as a Republican," it was not hard to get her to do so because we'd had these experiences. So having this stricter work requirement for government aid is supposed to make people like us feel like, yeah, get them. The bill will ensure that families with children don't have their benefits cut. The bill will ensure that families with children don't have their benefits cut. It also carves out a number of exemptions for people who are homeless and veterans. Thus, several groups will see no changes. What that means, most groups will see no changes to the requirement to continue to receive aid. However, if you're single, without kids, up to age 54, you will see tighter requirements to continue receiving aids and a shorter space of time that they can receive if they don't meet the requirements, which means they don't have to meet the requirements right away. Their life isn't going to change. Nobody's life is going to change right away. Republicans have said this provision is necessary due to a startling decrease in the number of able-bodied young men willing to work since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are going to get America working again, McCarthy said during his appearance on Fox News. Are you getting the feeling that all this is BS? And you should. All right, now here's the big one. IRS spending cuts, funding cuts. Now, what red-blooded America doesn't want the IRS to get cut? The deal would also cut a portion of funding for the IRS approved last year as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. The bill gave the IRS $80 billion more money than the agency have ever received from Congress, and 6 times its previous budget. Let's get a handle. Let's get a handle on that. That bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, gave the IRS $80 billion, more money than the agency had ever received from Congress, and 6 times its previous budget. 6 times. It was hitting a lotto. Democrats presented the funding as a way to go after the wealthy, update the IRS system, and make other internal improvements. 6 times their budget. They needed 6 times their budget to go after the top 1% of wage earners. But Republicans warned that it could be used to hire as many as 87,000 new IRS agents. A swarm of agents that they said would descend on middle America because that's where the money is. Increasing audit rates of small businesses and middle class earners, of course. Republicans Limit, Save, Grow Act initially would have cut almost all of this funding, reducing it by 70 billion. But the deal reached includes an agreement to repurpose 10 billion in the fiscal year 2024 appropriations process and 10 billion in fiscal year 2025 to be used to secure higher resources for non-defense priorities, according to a document obtained from the White House source. To repurpose $10 billion in the fiscal year 2024 appropriations process and $10 billion in the fiscal 25 to be used to secure higher resources for non-defense priorities, according to a document that we got from the White House. So does it look like there's been a big change? No, not at all. One last one before I am totally depressed. Student loans. Although Republicans hope to rescind an executive action by Biden canceling up to $20,000 in federal student loan debt, the package will leave the program untouched. They could have saved $20 billion. They could have saved 20,000 in federal. I mean, up to $20,000 in people getting their debt canceled. Debt that they took on willingly. On the other hand, it will end the Biden administration's pause on the student loan payment program of the end of the summer. Well, it got paused during COVID, right? The Limit, Save, Grow Act would have permanently rescinded the Department of Education's ability to order pauses on student loan payments. However, the budget deal would leave this power intact. It would leave the power intact for the Department of Education to put pauses on, take pauses off. It would give this authority to non-elected bureaucrats to be used for whatever purposes they choose. Do you understand why this is problematical? Although the debt ceiling deal won't touch Biden's cancellation program, the matter is still before the Supreme Court, where we're going to see. What a hot mess. Now, you can throw up your hands and try to walk away. But you can't call yourself a patriot by doing that. You can't put your American flag out there and do that at your house. And you can't. Because if you are either in the fight or you're not in the fight. Now you just have to figure out where your place is, where your battle station is. My suggestion to you is that most people's battle stations are close to home. Local elections, local candidates, to fend off the ridiculousness in your city of the county government, and getting in county government and fending off the ridiculousness of your state governments, and then again state governments to fend off the ridiculousness of the federal government. To understand the order, again, that this has never been a top-down organization. Never. And the reason it doesn't work well right now is because we're turning it into a top-down organization. You can't call yourself a patriot if you're not willing to stay in the fight, because it's a fight. It's a fight. Ain't gonna lie. Ain't gonna lie. It's a fight. And right now, we are getting our asses kicked. So what are you gonna do? Well, until I see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com.